I want to take you back to the 8th century AD to a piece of fascinating military history. So an army from the Middle East lands on the beaches of Spain in a major war. And they land on the beaches of Spain immediately surrounded by a far superior army, an army with hundreds of more people, maybe thousands of more soldiers than they have. So that the situation was easily a 5-to-1, maybe even a 10-to-1 odds of the invading army having any success. And so they are on the beach, their boats are there, and they have this gigantic army that almost spells certain death to them. And the general, recognizing the situation, does something absolutely astonishing. He goes to their boats and he burns them all. He burns their boats. So now they are on the beach facing this army, and instead of having the choice of retreating, they only have one option. And so the general of this army declared this before them. He says, "Behind you is the sea, before you the enemy. You are vastly outnumbered. All you have is sword and courage." You see, this general recognized that as long as the boats were there, they would always have a retreat. They would always have a backup. They would always have something that would hold back their full urgency and vigor in the fight, because retreating was always an option. The only thing that would make them fight to the death and fight all the way through is if they could not go back. The text that we have in front of us today in Haggai is God's burn your boats text. That's fundamentally what this is. You see, the situation that Haggai's people had, and the situation that you and I have as people who used to not be in a church plant, is that we have comfortable, easy pasts that we can all go back to. We can all drift back to a church that has everything we need already built, already done. The chairs don't roll, they just are there. We can always go back. We always have the option to go back to what is comfortable, to what is easy. The future is hard. The future is long. And it's work. The question in front of us as we go into this next to last section of Haggai is, how do we fight the power of the past? Do you guys fight with the power of the past? Let me give you an example of fighting the power of the past. Trying to break a bad habit. You ever tried to break a bad habit, a New Year's resolution? How come so many of us don't keep our resolutions? Because we just find the boat back to the past is a lot easier. What about when you start a diet? You say, you know what? I'm going low carb. How long does it take before that bread seems so delicious? Bread just is the most incredible thing ever created. You're like, all I want is a piece of bread, of chewy, tasty, sourdough, carbonlicious bread. And pretty soon your resolve to stay away from those carbs disappears, and you get your boat and you go back to the land of wonderful bread. Nostalgia. The good old days, they just seem to get a glow about them. You can think about the days of how strong nostalgia is if you go to the days of the Exodus. How many times did the people of Israel in the wilderness, in those hard days of learning this new yoke that God had given them, said, oh, the days in Egypt. Oh, they were so good. Can we go back to the days of Egypt? Forgetting they were slaves. But that seemed to them safer, more familiar, and easier than all of the change of the wilderness. Haggai chapter 2, verses 10 through 19 is God dealing with his people, starting to wonder, should we just go back? You see, the why in the road for them is do we stick with this, Or do we just go back to the way it was? Do we make our commitment of obedience stick? Or do we regress back to our old ways? Here's the summary of Haggai 2:10 through 19. It's basically this. Burn your boats and set your path fully toward the life that God blesses. Burn your boats and set your path fully toward the life God blesses. God recognizes that as long as we romance the past, we will not press into the future that contains His blessing. And so in this text, He sets fire to the past. He says, you're looking at burning boats. Don't go back there. Go forward into the life I will bless. Where is this the decision for you? Where are you in this place of, I kind of want to go back. I kind of want to retreat. I kind of want to get back on easy street. The present choices, the present challenges, they are getting the best of me. I want to go back. God wants you to hear, burn those boats, because the future that I have for you is the future of His blessing. So my question, or the thing that is going to drive us forward in this text, the question of this text is, what is the life that God blesses? What is this blessing that is ahead of us that we charge forward? And I want us to see in this text that God lays in front of His people 3 blessings that press them forward and cause them to burn the boats of their past. The first I want us to look at is that God blesses the life that seeks His presence. God blesses the life that seeks His presence. Now, if you notice the timestamp in our text, it is now essentially 3 months later. 90 days have passed since the people have started the work of rebuilding the house of God. And the people are still at work, but God senses that He needs to bring another word of encouragement to His people. And so Haggai is sent first to have a conversation with the priests. Let's listen to this conversation with the priests. And I recognize on the front end that this conversation is an unfamiliar conversation in our modern context. So we'll unpack it. But verses 11 through 13. Thus says the Lord of hosts, ask the priests about the law. If someone carries holy meat in the fold of his garment and touches with his fold bread or stew or wine or oil or any kind of food, does it become holy? The priest answered and said, no. Then Haggai said, if someone who is unclean by contact with a dead body touches any of these, does it become unclean? The priests answered and said, it does become unclean. All right, so Haggai has this conversation with the priests about this topic of cleanness and uncleanness and holiness. And these are strange topics for us. We don't use these categories anymore. These come out of God's Levitical instructions in the book of Leviticus. And so I want to try and give you a modern day metaphor of what Haggai is bringing to the attention of his people. And that is the difference between mess making and cleaning. All right? And we have a picture here of a messy house and a mom who is looking at it as a disaster, right? Have you guys been in a room that was just super messy? Just a tornado has gone through it? All right? The thing about messes is that they are a lot easier to make than cleanups, right? Messes are faster and bigger and easier than cleanups, right? Okay? So what you have with a mess is that they spread faster. It is so much easier to make a mess because there are no rules to a mess. Just throw it, leave it on the floor, spread it out. Messes are just, they have an energy of their own. They spread quickly. Messes also have multiple sources. Every kid in your house can bring in more mess. Dad can bring in more mess. The dog can bring in more mess. Just the air can drop dust on everything and bring more mess, right? So the way that messes work is that they spread quickly and that they have many places to get energized, many sources to them. But cleaning things, that's the opposite. Cleaning takes time. Cleaning takes special tools. Cleaning takes special supplies. Cleaning takes devoted time, right? And the number of people who want to do the work of cleaning is always less. There are far fewer people that show up to clean than that show up for the mess making. Well, this is how the concept of uncleanness and holiness, it works in the Bible. Uncleanness is just your spiritual mess making. There's many ways to make a mess spiritually. You can do it through sin. You can do it through contact with the wrong things. You can do it through all sorts of different sources. And that uncleanness can spread quickly. You want to make a new sinner? Just put a sinner next to him, right? Sinners just spread their sin around, multiply their sin, and uncleanness spiritually just goes everywhere. But when it comes to cleaning it, well, there's not a whole lot of things that clean a spiritual mess. The only thing that cleans a spiritual mess is holiness. And the only one that has the holiness that can clean a spiritual mess is God. So the sources to clean are much less. They're singular. They are God. And so here is what we have described by the priests. He is reminding them that your uncleanness is spreading far faster than holiness. And in fact, there is no holiness being offered to take away the uncleanness. And so what we have in front of these people is a situation where the uncleanness is spreading and the holiness is not keeping up. So he talks about sacrifices. What were the sacrifices for in the Old Testament? The sacrifices were God's instrument so that he could receive a sacrifice to remove uncleanness and restore the relationship or the holiness of the people. All right? That's what the sacrifices were for. They were basically the Clorox bleach that God used to help get disinfectant, detergent, of the uncleanness. And God instituted that you would bring the sacrifice before me. I would accept this sacrifice as a token to clean your uncleanness and restore the relationship with you and me, a holy God. And this is then the last piece of information to understand this text. When we use the word holy, holy is not just something that you create. Holiness is about a relationship. See, the only thing that is holy in the whole world is God. And the only things that become holy in this world are things that God has given his holiness to. And so here's the key point about that. Being holy is about being near to God, being in his presence. That's the whole meaning of holiness, is that we are set apart to God, or we are near to God. We are in his presence. All right, so what? What does all this have to do with burning our boats? Now let's look at verse 14. Then Haggai answered and said, "So it is with this people and with this nation before me, declares the Lord. So with every work of their hands, and what they offer there is unclean." Here's what Haggai is saying after this discussion about the mess making. He is saying that the people who are back in the land, the people of Israel, the remnant, they are unclean. They are unclean. Everything that they do is unclean. They are unclean even though they are doing sacrifices. If you go back to the book of Ezra chapter 3, you discover this important piece of information about the people that were there. Ezra chapter 3 says, when the 7th month came, this is 20 years before Haggai, when the 7th month came and the children of Israel were in the towns, the people gathered as one man to Jerusalem. They set the altar in its place, for fear was on them because of the people of the lands, and they offered burnt offerings on it to the Lord, burnt offerings morning and evening. From the first day of the 7th month, they began to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, but the foundation of the temple of the Lord was not yet laid. So here's what's going on. The people come back from exile. They come back into the land, and they're like, you know what? We have got to get our sacrifices started back up again. We've got to start doing our sacrifices. And so they rebuild the altar, and they start doing their sacrifices. And they do those sacrifices religiously, morning and evening. And they've been doing that for the last 16 years. So then why does Haggai say everything that you have been doing is still unclean? Aren't they doing their sacrifices just like they're supposed to? In verse 14, where it says, all that you are offering there is unclean, God is declaring that every one of these sacrifices that you have been doing, they're actually unclean. The altar hasn't brought any holiness to you whatsoever. Why? Why is it not working? Well, let's picture this. The altar is in front of what? It's in front of rubble. They have built an altar in front of the completely demolished house of God. And they're going to this altar and they're making sacrifices in front of a crumbled mess, a completely destroyed house of God. They are doing sacrifices without a house for God to be present. Do you see the thing that they're doing here? They are trying to have their worship, and they're forgetting that it's to be near God, and God has nowhere to be in this whole picture. God's house is completely a wreck. Here's what's happening. The people were separating their sacrifices from the relationship with God. That's what's happening. And because of that, all that they are doing is still unclean, because the sacrifices are to bring us near to God. If they're not bringing us near to God, they're just dead animals. And so all that they are doing is not bringing them close to God. They are sacrifices separated from the relationship. What are these sacrifices? In today's term, these sacrifices represent transactions. They're not interested in a relationship. They're interested in a mechanism that will give them the feeling that they're good. But without the relationship, all they are transactions. What we have here is a picture in Haggai's day of transactional worship. Transactional worship. What is transactional worship? That is a worship that lets us feel good religiously while being relationally far from God. Transactional worship is feeling good religiously while being relationally far from God. It is the idea that what we do at worship is to take care of ourselves. The main objective of worship is that it does it for me. That I leave with the good feelings, that I leave with the charge up, that I had an experience of warmth and delight, that I wanted to post on social media about how great this church is. That's what worship is when it's not about God, when it's about feelings, religiously good feelings. And we must take the mirror and look at ourselves. There are many ways in our modern world that we are participating in transactional worship. The model of building a church is the same model of building a business. Churches are trying to get consumers. They are trying to advertise services. They are trying to create atmospheres that are superior, that have a higher quality, that reach all of the felt needs of the people. And churches blow up if all of the felt needs are are experienced there. But fundamentally, the mindset of much modern worship and many modern churches is consumerism. The objective is not to bring people to God, it's to bring the church to the people. And I'm not calling that entirely wrong-headed, but when consumerism is the chief value in a church, it is walking down the road of transactional worship. Because the chief question in worship is not, how good did I feel? But who did I worship? We have churches that prioritize therapy. The objective of a good message is, was it therapeutic to me? Did it console me? Did it comfort me? Did it make me feel like I'm a David that can go out there and slay a giant? Or did it cause you to be in awe of a great God? But you see, transactional worship prefers therapy, prefers consumerism. Worship becomes driven by personal preference. I go to my church because I like the music, I like the ministries, I like the coffee, or whatever it is. And the thing that you should like about church is God's there. If you're noticing the quality of the coffee, you're probably in a very mediocre church. Just to be blunt. You see, God does not do transactions. He does relationships. God does not do transactions. He does relationships. And the key to worship is the relationship that you are experiencing with God. The heart of worship, the priority of worship, the definition of worship is that you are in His presence. And if you're pursuing any kind of worship where His presence is rather unnecessary, you're on the wrong track. You're in transactional worship. Listen to Psalm 84, verses 1 through 5. And I want you just to hear the heart of relational worship. This is what was lacking in the people in Haggai's day. The psalmist says, "How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young at your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Blessed are those who dwell in your house, ever singing your praise. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere." How could you just have an altar in front of a bunch of stones fallen over and be driven by that heart? You see, it was transactional worship that was in their past. But what's the difference between transactional relationship and relational worship? It's that you know God. It's that you experience God. It's that you want to be with God and make God pleased. Listen to this verse, this kind of capstone verse in the book of Romans. After laying out the gospel, Paul says, "I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship." The sacrifices are not transactions. You are the sacrifice. You present yourself to God as the burnt offering to be wholly consumed for His pleasure. You see, the difference between transactional worship and relational worship is one makes you a consumer and the other makes you consumed with the glory of God. Beloved, burn the boats that go back to transactional worship. Set your path fully to seeking His presence. Amen? And the second blessing, what life does God bless? The second one that I want us to see in this text is that God blesses the life that fears His discipline. That fears His discipline. I'm going to lose consumers on this one. but this is so important. God blesses the life that fears His discipline. Now, if you grab one of these handouts that you can follow the sermon along with, you'll notice that the text has been formatted a little differently with some indents. To understand how this text works, there is the past and there is the present. And the way for you to kind of keep track of what verse is which, I have indented the verses that speak about the past. The way things used to be, those are indented. The non-indented words are the present or the future. And so as you look at verses 15 and 17 through 17, they are indented. God is going back and saying, let's remember where you have been. And He recalls those 16 years before He got them back to work. This was the life where they didn't have time for the house of the Lord, but they somehow found time to panel their houses. This was the 16 years where subtly but surely they moved themselves from a life focused on God to a life focused on self. Let's read verses 15 through 17. Before stone was placed upon stone in the temple of the Lord, how did you fare? When one came to a heap of 20 measures, there were but 10. When one came to the wine vat to draw 50 measures, there were but 20. I struck you and all the products of your toil with blight and with mildew and with hail. Yet you did not turn to me, declares the Lord. You see, before these verses that we just read were 16 years of self-interest. And God reminds them, over those 16 years, I gave you spiritual discipline in the form of unfruitfulness. All your hard labors continue to produce less and less. And I struck you with blight and with mildew and with hail. I did these things to wake you up from your self-centered life that had drifted away from me to focusing on yourselves. That is what He is saying in this whole thing. And it's so important that we remember spiritual discipline is not just a grumpy God saying, well, I'm really sad that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're not taking care of me, and so I'm going to have a little bit of a tantrum and throw some hail at you. That's not what it's ever about. Spiritual discipline always comes through a loving relationship. The purpose of it is right there in verse 17. It was to call them to repentance. All of this was to wake them up and call them back to Himself. Call them back to their relationship with God. And here's the heartbreak. When we read the words, after all this, you did not turn to me. What does it fundamentally reveal about the people? After all this, you did not turn to me. I submit to you that it reveals that these people had lost their fear of God. They had lost their fear of God. Now, fear of God is not something that we talk about very often, although it is permeating of the Scriptures. And sometimes we hear the word fear of God and we think, well, you have a picture of God as a terrifying tyrant and we're all supposed to be like trembling in front of Him and cowering. That is not what fear of God is about. Fear of God is about that deep respect that it attends a loving relationship. And the fear of God, I'm going to offer to you, is really this. It is the fear of disappointing God. The fear of God is the fear of disappointing him. You understand that. You've experienced that fear in a healthy family. Like, there is the rules, but then when you find out, when I broke those rules, you disappointed mom or you disappointed dad. That usually hurts more than any other part of the punishment, because this relationship that you cherish, suddenly you have caused it a grievance. And that hurts. And so the fear of God is that towards God. It is the fear of disappointing God. In times of discipline, what are we fundamentally saying to our kids? We're never saying, I enjoy disciplining you. We are saying in the discipline, I know you can do better. I know you can do better. I wouldn't discipline you if I thought this was the best you could do. But because I know you can do better, I want you to experience some pain and discomfort to motivate you to your best. So I want us to understand what we mean when we talk about fear before we progress any farther. Fear is not opposed to love. It's the dread that keeps us from failing the one we love. Right? It's very much attached to zeal for the one that we love, because we do not want to disappoint that one. And the thought of disappointing them is a dread, is a fear. So why do we see no fear of God in these people, that they have been able to go 16 years experiencing the Lord's discipline and never turn to him? Why is there no fear of God? It seems that their lives and their relationship with God had become separate things. They had begun to think that the stuff that I do at the temple is my stuff for God, and the stuff I do, getting the crops in the barn and doing the farming and taking care of life, is something else. They had disconnected them because they were not asking the question, is God causing all of this stuff not to work out? They're not asking that question at all. They're just saying, well, another bad crop, another disappointing year, another futile year of farming. They're not asking the question, God, are you trying to say something? That question's not there at all. You see, they had disconnected their daily life, their daily chores, their daily fruit and produce from their relationship with God. They were separate, two different things. You know, they may speak that God is over all of life, but as they actually lived life, this was their part and this other part was God's. Now, in our modern world, we kind of have a term for that sort of living. We call that secularism, right? That we have a sacred part of life and we have a secular part of life. And the challenge in this world is to make sure that you do your sacred stuff in sacred places and you do all the other stuff in secular ways. And if you do that, you get along just fine. But here's what I want us to grasp. The fear of God decreases as our secularism increases. The fear of God decreases as our secularism increases. Here's what I'm saying. Just like the people in Haggai's day, if you see a separation between this part of your life and your life with God, then the fear of God has nothing to say in this area of separation. They have become disconnected. Wherever we don't see God, we don't fear disappointing him. Right? If God's not a part of this, I can't disappoint him. The only person that I have to make happy is me. So let me ask you, is there a fear of God in your money? Is there a way that you are spending your money that you might say, that might disappoint God? Or is the last thought that you have about your money that God has anything to do with it? The chief end of your money is to take care of your family and make yourself happy. If the fear of God is there, though, You want to make sure that your money is glorifying to God. What about your time? How do you view your time? Can God be disappointed with how you spend your time? Or is the only consideration of, did I have a good time? Did I do what I wanted? Did I get the things done that I needed to get done in my time? Your workplace. Here's a big question. Is your workplace a place where you're supposed to share Jesus? Is your workplace a place that you're supposed to make disciples? No, it's not. It's government work. Or you don't talk about taxes, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about Jesus. Why? Why? Because that's not God's space. That's the world's space. Your choices, your desires, your happiness. As you look at all of those things, do you ask the question, am I disappointing God or honoring God in these areas? Or do you think of your choices, your desires, your happiness as yours, and the entire criteria of whether they are good or bad is how you feel about them? This is the effect of secularism. And the result of it is a vast majority of our lives are godless. Because we don't even ask, what does God think about this? We don't even think to ask. It's already been carved into the secular part of life. Beloved, Haggai refutes this, as does every other page of the Bible. But if you read the book of Haggai, you will see just in these 2 chapters that God is Lord over everything. He is Lord over the weather. He is Lord over the crops, over the animals, over human productivity. He is Lord over nations. He is Lord over all money. He is Lord over the future. And He is Lord over our very wills. The Lord of the Bible does not have a secular divide. And the fear of the Lord of the Bible cannot have a secular divide. What have you separated from God? What have you separated from God? You see, God blesses those who fear His discipline. If you believe that God is over everything and you want to not disappoint God in anything, then your entire life is driven by pleasing and honoring God. And so you see when things are disappointing to God, you see that as a place to repent, as a place to double your commitment, to increase your faithfulness. And you see that in every part of your life. And that's a blessed life. A life that is faithful to God, that does not disappoint God, is a life that God rejoices in. And so, beloved, burn the boats that go back to secular thinking, that goes back to dividing your life between yours and God's, and set your path fully toward a life shaped by a proper fear of God. Amen? What life does God bless? One that seeks His presence, one that fears His discipline, and third, God blesses the life that serves His mission. Let's now look at verses 18 and 19, the last 2 of our passage. It says, "Consider from this day onward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, since the day that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid. Consider, is the seed yet in the barn? Indeed, the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree have yielded nothing. But from this day on, I will bless you." Here is God's statement that the past is in the past. My blessing is in the future, and what has changed the past from the future is that you are finally obeying, you are finally committed to my mission. And this is the four words that God uses to talk about your future of obedience. It's just this: I will bless you. I will bless you. What does I will bless you mean? I mean, we could easily start talking about, oh, God's going to make me rich, or God's going to fill up my barns, or any number of things. That's not what God means by I will bless you. It simply means this: I will take care of you. God will bless you, that he will take care of you, that you won't have to worry, that you won't have to be anxious, that you will have what you need. You will be taken care of. And this word, I will bless you, it is open-ended. It doesn't say it's this thing and that thing. It could be any number of things God will take care of. And I will bless you has no end point in it. It's an unending commitment. So the words, I will bless you, are this open-ended, unending commitment to those who put God's mission first. And why do I call it God's mission? Because the mission that God gave his people back here in Haggai's day, building the house of God, is the same mission that he has for us in the days of the New Testament, the New Covenant. We are to be builders of the house of God. Well, how do we build the house of God? Not by bricks and stone and mortar. We build the house of God through obeying these words. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. You see, the house of God in the New Testament is a spiritual house being built by the peoples from all nations, being built by those who have been told the good news of Jesus and have come to his home. We build the house of God by making disciples. And yet we stink at this. I mean, we do. We live amongst people whose driveways are never busy on Sunday morning. How many of your neighbors are going to a different church versus just not going to a church at all? And we live right there. How many coworkers right next to us are not in a church? And we've spent years with them. This commandment, go and make disciples, is somehow one that we bracket out of nearly every relationship. I'm not excluding myself. The fear that keeps us from going into this commitment of making disciples is that the same fear that Haggai's day had. We can't afford to put God first. I've got to focus on my own stuff before I can focus on God's stuff. I'll give God the stuff after I got my stuff taken care of. We have somehow applied that instruction that we get in an airplane about the oxygen masks to our relationship with God. You know, when you get on the airplane and the stewardess talks about the oxygen mask, and she always says, what? Take care of your oxygen mask first before you take care of your kid's oxygen mask. Well, somehow, that's how we treat our relationship with God. I'm going to get my oxygen first, and then after I've taken care of that, I'll fiddle with getting the oxygen in my relationship with you. You see, we have I'll take care of myself first. I'll take care of my priorities, my bills, my needs, my requirements first, and then after that, God, you can have it. So we have that we can't afford to put God first, and the second fear is we know if we do, it will cost us. We know that if we went full out on making disciples, that it would cost us. I mean, what would happen if you sold out, completely sold out to making disciples in your life? Would you experience embarrassment? Yeah. Would you experience exclusion? Yeah. Would you experience deprivation? Would you find yourself missing out on things that other people were enjoying? Would you find yourself being passed over for different promotions or different opportunities? Probably. Would you experience persecution? Would you experience the mockery? Would you experience the snickering? Would you experience the limiting of your life because being sold out to make disciples? To all of this, I don't want to deceive you. You will. Absolutely. But also, if you were whole on, sold out to making disciples, these 4 words would hang over your entire life. I will bless you. I will bless you. Jesus says this in Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Does he say that you're going to be rich, that you're going to be popular, that you're going to have the best house and the best car? No, but he does say, I will take care of you. I will bless you. I will take care of you. And we have to recognize that as we stand between these 2 realities, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of of our own priorities being neglected, and the words, I will bless you, that most of us have not burned our boats because we rush back to safety, back to comfort. Which is bigger, God's promise or your fear? This is not something that pastors are excluded from. Pastors deal with this all the time. Every sermon I preach, every sermon I prepare, there is a place where I'm like, oh, that would be too hard to say. I am constantly pulling punches. I am constantly choosing to please the wrong person. But I can tell you that I have experienced enough of the faithfulness of God that I can assure you the words, I will bless you, even as the world shakes everything that you have, is true. Because in my last pastorate, there was a time, there was a place where I was told point blank, if you say or preach on these things, you can't be our pastor. So I could have my income, I could have my house, I could have everything secure. All I had to do was stay away from some stuff. I couldn't do that. And I was scared. I mean, they had it all. They could take it all away from me. But here's what I want to tell you. They did take it all away from me. But there wasn't a single day where I was not taken care of. There was not a single day where I wasn't able to keep the refrigerator stocked. There wasn't a single day where I wasn't able to keep my kids under a roof. There wasn't a single day where I ever felt like God didn't love me and that he wasn't there taking care of me. You see, the words, I will bless you, are true. And if the whole world wants to tear you down, I will assure you, his blessing will keep the ground beneath you from failing. Listen, how can we doubt? How can we stand on this shore and look at the boats when we have Romans 8:32? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? He has already told you, I have given you my son. I have made you clean. I have made you holy. I have made you forgiven. I have made you my child. And I spared nothing in the pursuit of that for you. And now you question whether living for me and my mission will end up okay? How will I not also give you everything else that you need? What else do you need to know from me to trust the words, I will bless you and